Stefano, shall we start maybe?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, we see a beautiful Sarah's staircase. But let's start. So maybe I will start with handing over to Stefano for the introductory remarks.
Thank you very much, and I hope we are all on mute so that we can maximize the quality of the sound. Okay, thank you very much, Anna, and welcome to all of you for attending this follow-up discussion. Many of you have been part of our annual global meeting, and also have contributed to the development of the new strategy. So I'll really just trying to summarize a few points that Anna will talk more in detail in the coming presentation. So I just wanted to highlight that the new strategy includes several key changes from the past one, and these changes were needed to better reflect the changing needs and opportunities we are facing these complex times of health emergencies and complex and protracted humanitarian crisis. Now, some of these changes include a leaner and faster and more inclusive organizational structure at both global and national level, massive investment in the frontline people who help strengthen national capacities and service delivery, and greater inclusion of national and subnational capacities. Also, the new strategy better defines a stronger capacity to provide technical assistance and support with the creation of the GNC Technical Alliance and various working groups related to that. Also, the strategy reflects big changes in maximizing the available technology to improve the availability and access to the most updated tools, guidance, and expertise through better communication, including a revamped website, webinars, newsletters, easier systematic raising of questions and requests from the field, and a more personalized follow-up by the GNC CT, GNC TA, and even the GNC SAG. Now, the GNC collective response in the last couple of years to the direct and indirect effect of the COVID, which has exacerbated several long-standing crises, has been widely praised and recognized as a positive model for other clusters to follow. And our approach is influencing beyond the work of other clusters in really better shaping the humanitarian partnership and the nutrition component of the humanitarian responses for a much more effective and efficient and consistent modality of response. So without taking any more of your time, I'll ask Anna to share with you more in detail some of these changes, and then look forward to additional discussions and clarifications after the call, after the presentation, or in follow-up calls. Thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you, Stefano. So, as Stefano said, I will just present you the summary of the key changes that we are implementing, but we do not have a very official agenda for this, so I will just present for your information the key agreements and key changes, and then we can have a discussion. So there is no panel, there is no official Q&A. So just feel free to type in the chat or raise your hands, whatever you're more comfortable with. And then depending on who will be best placed to answer this question, we will just answer all your questions. And then if you have any concerns, we can also discuss them. So you see we have agenda on the screen. And the whole agenda is based on the revised standard operating procedure, which we revised just now. And we had about a month ago launch of the GNC strategy, and then we had to align our structure in order to be able to implement this strategy in the best way. So we revised the standard operating procedure for the global nutrition cluster, which actually describes how we operate, what is different structures that we have, what is the relation between them, and so on. So Judith will post now a link to the standard operating procedure so you can download it to yourself and read through while I'm presenting or later. So one of the key things that we describe in our standard operating procedure is GNC partners and observers. So what it is, what is GNC partner and what is GNC observer. I pasted on this slide the definitions from the SOP, but the key here is that GNC partners, they can be any entity, individuals, networks, agencies, organizations, or so on. And the key is that they support the fulfillment of the GNC strategic plan. They can do so by contributing funding or by participating in the working group or in any other mean, but that they are actually contributing to achieving our strategy in 4 years. And then, of course, the standard disclaimers, such as no conflict of interest, support monitoring, accountable, and so on. So for the observers, the difference is that they are not contributing to the GNC work plan. So they are there just to know what we are doing. Based on this, the GNC partners have a vote for any decisions that we make, and the GNC observers do not have that vote. And when I said vote, it's not necessarily a formal vote. It's basically that when we are coming to the consensus, let's say, that it's GNC partners consensus where we need to come with, and then we obviously take into account what observers are saying, but they do not directly impact our decisions. Now I'm trying to change. So currently, this is the GNC membership at the global level. We have 36 partners and we have 13 observers, and you do see the distribution. So we do have most of the NGOs, UN agencies. We have 5 donors who are our partners, 3 networks, such as ENN and so on, and government agency is CDC. So I could not put it as such under the donor or any other category, so it's under the government agency. And we do have a few observers. Now, for comparison, this is the current nutrition cluster or sector membership based on the 33 countries that report to us on a biannual basis. On average, you see that we have 37 partners per country, although it varies obviously by country. And in general, it is 15 international NGOs, 13 local NGOs, 4 UN agencies, 3 government counterparts, and 1 donor who are the partners, not observers. And if you see on the left, then the size of pie is directly representative of the number of partners in the country. So you see, for example, that DRC, Somalia, and South Sudan and whole of Syria have the highest number of partners in the countries. So what we are planning to do for 2022, first of all, we want to reconfirm partner and member status or partner and observer status, just because we have new strategic plan, we have new working plan. So you might want to change your preference. You can You want, maybe you were observer, you want to become a partner, or from partner become an observer. So in the Q1 of 2022, we will be contacting all of you to confirm what will be your status for the next at least 2 years, and also to update your contact details. Additionally, as you see that when we were revising SOP and when we developed new strategies, there was a big focus on localization, on working with local NGOs, community-based organizations, communities, private organizations, academic institutions, and local authorities. As you saw when I presented the slide for the GNC, we do not have as such representation from these entities. And also not always they are well represented at the national or even subnational level. For example, we traditionally don't engage with private organizations, with academic institutions. So one of our priorities for the next year would be actually to revise current partnerships at all levels, subnational, national, regional and global levels, and based on this develop recommendations for better engagement. So as a result, we might not only recommend some changes for how national cluster or subnational cluster membership works, but also we are planning that this review will come up with a recommendation for us on how to change our membership to make it more inclusive. So the next important chapter in the SOP is about communications. I listed here all the communications which we have. I will run through them very quickly, just so that you check whether you're aware of this and whether you are part of it. So we obviously have the GNC website. We have a monthly newsletter. If you are not subscribed to newsletter, go to our website, to the news page, and add your email address, and then the key information which we share it on a monthly basis on behalf of all the partners and the alliance. So it's very important for your knowledge to be part of this newsletter. We have different emails and mailing lists when we need to engage specifically with some groups, like with the GNC partners, for example. We are present on social media, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. So if you are on any of them, I also recommend you to follow us because we often share updates which are more urgent, which we don't necessarily include to the monthly newsletter through those channels. We also share our job advertisements there, so please do join them. So we show news and job opportunities also on the GNC website, but not many people are visiting them specifically and regularly to check those. We organize different webinars with the countries, with partners, and different conference calls. So usually everybody whom we have on our mailing list receive invitations for the relevant calls, including from the Alliance. In terms of engagement with the country clusters and communications, we do have annual and mid-year reporting, and we produce our reports based on the information which we receive from the countries, and this information is also updated 2 times a year on the website. There is some information such as contact details of cluster coordinators which are updated more regularly once they are changing. So always visit our website before writing to us or before asking any questions to get summary of the response in a particular country that reports to us. Obviously, we have a GNC meetings, and we will talk more about this later. We have different communications in the working groups, global thematic working groups, strategic advisory group, task forces, and the alliance. Everybody has their own way to communicate that works best for them. And obviously, we have individual communications. Now, decision-making and document endorsement, again, this is an important extract from the standard operating procedures. In a summary, for the strategic decisions, the coordination team and the alliance generally consult a strategic advisory group for an advice, and we do commit to share drafts and final drafts of all the strategic documents, as well as key decisions to be made with you all for your input and feedback. Where possible, we will try to align it to the GNC annual meeting. If not possible, then we will contact you via email or survey. when conflicting feedback provided or some issues arise, we discuss it with the SAC, and then SAC advising GNCCT or the Alliance on the best course of action. Once finalized, we share all of our strategic document publicly. In specific areas where we have a relevant GNC structure, for example, we have a wasting global thematic working group or advocacy and communication working group, we outsource the decision making to those entities, which means that, for example, if we need to issue an advocacy statement, it would be going to the advocacy and communication working group. If it's advocacy statement for for intersectoral collaboration, which we issued last year, it was advocacy working group and intersectoral working group. And it doesn't go to the partner collective until it's actually the final. So I'm flagging this to you because if we are working on a specific issue, if we have a group which is dedicated to this issue, and if you do want to contribute to that, then please join this group, because this is the way for you to be consulted and to provide your opinion. Now, there are also situations sometimes that we need to have a quick decision, to make a quick decision, and we not always have time to consult the GNC partners on that. So we will try as much as possible to consult SAG on a very short notice. And even if this is not possible, then we will have to decide based on our best understanding of the GNC interests. And then obviously everything will be communicated to you. Now, I pasted here 3 strategic objectives that we have, which is people, operational and technical support, and enabling environment, which is the 3 objectives from our new strategy. Just because I'm going to present to you now our strategy, our structure at the global level, and it's very much aligned with these 3 strategic objectives. It's also available in the GNC strategy that you can refer to, and I believe Judith will also share this link with you via chat, but I will be presenting it very quickly to you, emphasizing the changes that we made. So we do have strategic advisory group, and then we have coordination team and the alliance leadership team. No changes here. However, because our GNC strategy now captures the whole NIE sector, we agreed that the strategic advisory group would also provide strategic advice to the GNC Technical Alliance. So we do have one group where everything comes together and oversees the implementation of the whole strategy. Now, talking about specific objectives, on the right you have a strategic objective 1 related to people, and we are planning to form a capacity strengthening working group, which will be also having 2 sub-working groups. One of nutrition in emergencies, which we will form based on the members who were previously involved in development of nutrition in emergencies competency framework, but also opening it to everybody. And we already have coordination and information management sub-working group. So these 2 sub-working groups will come together as capacity strengthening working group, working on the holistic capacity strengthening of the GNC and nutrition clusters and sectors. And we are also planning to advertise the talent pool for coordinators and information management, so that we do have a pool of specialists that we are able to support countries with recruitment as soon as possible. The second strategic objective on operational and technical support, as you see, this is a massive area of our work, and we have a big structure to support it. We have Wasting Global Thematic Working Group, IFE Core Group. We have Nutrition Cash and Voucher Assistance Global Thematic Working Group, Nutrition Information Systems Global Thematic Working Group. And then we also have Technical Support Team. Technical Support Team is managed jointly by the Technical Alliance and the GNCCT, and include all our deployable and remote capacity. So we do have help desk on several issues which support countries: intersectoral coordination help desk, nutrition information systems, sectorial or cluster coordination help desk, information management help desk, NIE help desk. And then when needed and we need additional capacity, we also have partner technical staff who can provide additional support on case-by-case basis as needed. Now, what we're planning to have is also to have 5 focal points for the key priority cross-cutting teams. Gender and GBV, disability, HDN, AAP, and localization. And we are going to talk a little bit more later about this during the presentation, but this is the new focal points that we are establishing to support mainstreaming of those cross-cutting teams. We also have deployable capacity. It includes nutrition technical advisors. It includes rapid response team, which does coordination and information management support. And when needed, also partner technical staff, which on ad hoc basis can also be deployed. And in addition to that, if it's not enough, we also have NIE sector roster of consultants for the key priority interventions, where we can also recommend those consultants to countries or to agencies, to organizations upon request to simplify their process, and the consultants are already partially vetted. So it does supposed to simplify a recruitment process. Feel free to use this roster of consultants when you need. And in addition to that, we have intersectorial collaboration working groups that I put between the 2 strategic objectives, because it's also provide operational and technical support, but also supporting enabling environment by working at the global level. So intersectorial collaboration working group is a new group which was formed very recently. And in the SOP, you do have a TOR for this group and for all other groups if you want to review them and join the groups. We also formed just now advocacy and communications working group, which is now developing advocacy and communication strategy and work plan in line with our strategy. And we are planning to have a funding working group to work on few key deliverables in our strategy. And again, about this, I'm going to talk a little bit more. So this structure at the global level, the way I present it, does cover all the key priorities that we identified for our strategy. And I hope that we will be able to deliver on all the plans as we planned. Now, moving to the strategic objective to the strategic advisory group, the role of the SAG has not changed. As I said, it just expanded now beyond the GNCCT also to the Alliance. And the SAG role is to ensure that the GNC partners benefit from strategies that are consistent with the public interest of the nutrition cluster members. So they provide strategic guidance for the delivery of the strategy in line with what we already defined as our vision, mission, and strategic objectives, and they are supporting us in the monitoring of the work plan. We do have a strategic advisory group TOR as an annex to the SOP, so feel free to review it now. But I wanted to highlight here one key change that we are implementing from this year. We want to strengthen interaction between the strategic advisory group and the partners, and also to be able to better represent your issues as partners and your concerns to the SAG, to the GNCCT, and to the Alliance leadership team. So in order to do that, what we did, we randomly associated all of the partners to a specific SAG member. As a result, we have about 2-3 partners per each strategic advisory group member. The idea is that you might want to approach the strategic advisory group with your concern issues, or sometimes you might need to have some consultation with you, so it will not be us or leadership team who is approaching you one by one, or it could be possibly the strategic advisory group member who will approach you and have better collaboration. So that's all we just implemented on the pilot basis. We do hope that you will find it useful. And with this, I am going to the next very interesting slide, which shows the allocation of partners to each SAG members. As I said, it's all done. It was all done randomly. So if you if for some reason you are not happy with the selection, do let us know. But I hope that there will be no issues with that, and the presentation will be shared. But I hope you had enough time to find your organization and to see who is the SAG member who will be. And now I'm presenting the SAG membership. You see, we have permanent members in the SAG and elected members. We have done some small changes. Now, because the SAG expanded responsibility to the Alliance, we have a permanent member, Alliance Leadership Team representative, who is currently World Vision. So Colleen is in the SAG representing the Alliance on a permanent basis now. We do still keep GNC coordinators, the 4 UN agencies, and we also added BHA and ECHO to our resource partners as permanent members. They were elected members before, but because they are key nutrition in emergency donors, we felt that they should be our permanent members in the SAG. So this leaves us with elected members, which are 3 NGOs. And we also increased number of cluster coordinators from 1 to 2 because we felt that that requires to better get engaged and get better feedback on the country level support needed. I'm going to describe you the SAG membership and nomination process just because we are opening it now for nomination for the 2 cluster coordinators and for 1 NGO. I will not go one by one, but in summary, the membership is not for you as individual, but it's for your organization. If you commit to be a SAG member and if you leave, then your organization will have to find a replacement. However, for the cluster coordinators, it's based for now on the individual representation. In order to become a SAG member, you need to be GNC partner, not observer, for at least 12 months or longer. We do have yearly nomination process. We do not want to replace everybody, every elected member every 2 years, but that's why we do it yearly and we replace bit by bit so that the SAG has this institutional knowledge. There is a nomination process. We will send you email with all the information and then you can nominate yourself or your organization. Then if we have more nominations that we need, we go through the election process, this time through voting, and then decide based on the voting who will be joining SAG. Once you join the SAG as elected member, you are the SAG member for 2 years. The only exception is that if we, for example, advertise for a new NGO and no new NGO decided to become a GNC partner, then we can extend for 2 more years the current NGO, very similar to the president arrangements. So we try to limit the rotation to no more than 4 members rotated per year. With this, as I mentioned, we will be opening the SAG nomination and election procedure in 2022 in January. We need to select 2 nutrition cluster coordinators. One of the coordinators that we had on the SAG is no longer cluster coordinator. He moved to another roles. So we are looking for 2 cluster coordinators. I hope people on the call would be interested to apply. And we are looking for 1 NGO because World Vision was an elected member and now they became representative of the Alliance. We have one space open. So as I said, in January, you will receive email asking for nomination. But for now, just keep thinking if you would like to nominate and become the SAG member. Now, the next we wanted to discuss with you is the GNC priority cross-cutting teams, which we identified already in the strategy as our priority. And as I mentioned, we are planning to have focal points. And with this, I will hand over to Andy to explain how this will be operating.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, so for the cross-cutting themes, we have, as help desks are positioned within the technical support team, we felt that it's important to make sure that the cross-cutting themes that we want to make sure are mainstreamed are also housed within the technical support team. That is going to help greatly. As has already been mentioned, there are 5 priority topics that have been identified as needing to be mainstreamed. And we have some established work streams already in the technical support team. 2 of those are the gender and GBV risk mitigation work stream, which has been in place for roughly a year, and the anti-racism and localization work stream, which has been in place actually initially as 2 separate work streams that were brought together recently, as it was seen that most of the activities that we do, they work towards the same objective, which is really looking towards better, more, sorry, not so eloquent, more presence and involvement, leadership, ownership by local actors, and anti-racism similarly raising the profile of the actors on the ground. That's why this one is together. We have 3 additional work streams that need to be established that we haven't had in the past. We've talked about having them, but we haven't actually moved them forward yet. So these will be new. 1 on humanitarian development nexus, 1 on accountability to affected populations, and 1 on disability. There is a generic TOR for the work streams on the Alliance website, and the link will be shared to have a look at kind of what is the idea behind them. Maybe you can go on to the next slide, please, so I can explain a little bit more about how those are going to work. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so basically the idea is similar to the way that the help desks work, but the help desks are having 1 staff member that's actually dedicated to that area. In this case, we have focal points that will be assigned for, not assigned, that will be, will volunteer themselves really to be a focal point for the different cross-cutting themes. The idea is that it should be somebody who is interested in the theme, and we expect that there will be more than 1 for each of the areas. But the focal point, there should be 1 focal point, as they'll be the ones who will receive requests that come in. And those focal points will be able to lead the workstream discussions that will include organizing monthly meetings, tracking action points, etc. But the focal points in the work streams work very closely together. They are the people who questions will come to on different cross-cutting themes. So, for example, if a country wants to have some support on, has a quick question, or wants some support on how to mainstream accountability to affected populations, they can send in a question through the dashboard. The focal point will receive the question, and if they're able to, they will answer the question directly, or they'll channel them to the appropriate mechanism to answer it. They may also receive requests to comment on documents from global or country level to provide feedback. Maybe they will review them directly, depending on the timing, or consolidating feedback from the workstream members. They will also, the work streams with the focal points will also look to develop the approach towards handling the cross-cutting themes. So it depends on each different cross-cutting area and in what way that might be done. In some cases, it's really well known that we should be integrating, for example, gender and GBV risk mitigation into nutrition programming on the ground. And so perhaps less sensitization is needed, but more support in collating of recommended best practice or developing key actions for programming and for coordination. But basically, there'll be a focal point, but that will be surrounded by by other people in the work stream who are interested to move that area of work forward, basically acting as champions, helping to establish what needs to be done in that cross-cutting theme and advancing that forward. These work streams will have the focal points plus other interested members from the TST, but we do hope that in the future they can be opened up a bit more broadly to ensure we've got some country level representation on them as well. And they will, if they either can include directly or will have strong links to a resource person that's somebody from that cross-cutting theme that maybe supports clusters across the board or just theme subject matter experts, let's say, in gender, in localization, in HDN, etc., for all the 5 areas. Okay, more information is available in that generic COR that's available on the website. And back over to you, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. There was also a question I saw from Alex about expanding the scope of cross-cutting teams and work streams, and the example of climate change was given. So the 5 streams which we have were selected based on the key priority cross-cutting teams which we defined in the strategy. So these are what we committed to work in the 4 next years. It doesn't stop us to have any additional work streams, in my opinion. So if there is a particular interest, for example, in climate change, Alex, I suggest that you can start this discussion maybe with Andy and to see if you would like to be a focal point and to co-lead or lead this work stream. Right, Andy?
Absolutely. I think over the course of the strategy, there may be other themes that are also equally important, but obviously climate change is particularly pertinent and absolutely can be considered.
Okay. And to ask Ben's question, they were prioritized in the discussion with the SAG based on the list of all the cross-cutting issues. Now I'm finishing the presentation. About funding working group, which is for now, funding working group is one of the only 2 groups which is not yet formed. I wanted to put here the key tasks for the funding working group as we identified in the strategy. So the key tasks are to develop mapping of the current and prospective NIE resource partners, funding opportunities and entry points for increased advocacy for NIE funding, overall global, regional, national level. The next task is jointly with traditional NIE resource partners, develop a more robust understanding of the administrative and legislative challenges that prevent current funding from being more rapid, more flexible, and covering longer periods than it currently does. Based on the above, to develop a communication strategy and narrative around NIE for global and country level financing, including how to demonstrate the impact of NIE programs coordination and IM. And we think that these activities will be done together with the advocacy and communications working group. And the last key task is identify and implement solutions to promote equitable sectoral funding in support of multi-sectoral programming, again, jointly with advocacy working group and intersectorial working group. We are planning to organize this funding working group the same way as was done always and is written in our SOP. So we will share the draft TOR, which is based on these key tasks, and we will share it with all of you for nominations. At this point, we thought that it makes sense based on the work which we are doing to have it as a GNC partners group. But we also open it to the cluster coordinators in case you are interested in any specific topic to contribute to that as well. So we are planning in the next weeks to share the terms of reference with you for nominations, and we will be organizing the first meeting somewhere around January or February. Again, it would not be a funding working group where we only work with the donors and we are saying that this is funding challenges help us. This is more strategic level funding working group engagement, trying to help to figure out how to go about the key challenges that we have in the sector. So everybody is very welcome to join. GNC meetings. As this is our last slide, we plan to have a GNC meeting next year in 2022 around May, June. This is the time when we selected for the meetings to be every year, and the meeting will be held online, so no need to book travel yet. As always, all national coordination teams, all partners and the relevant experts will be invited, and we can also organize side meetings as needed. For example, sometimes we organize working group or global thematic working groups with us. We have not discussed yet the details of the annual meeting, but at least you can more or less pinpoint when we will have the meeting next year and all other years. And almost the last slide is about the GNC work plan. This is draft. There is still work ongoing to finalize it. But as of now, based on what we put in the strategy, and some of the activities will not be done in 2022, we allocated them in which year we are going to do what. So the plan for 2022 is that we need about 5 million. I think once we finalize the draft, it will be more than 5 million. This doesn't include currently needs for the funding working group because we have not formed it yet, so we don't have visibility on how much funding will be needed. And the NIS working group needs, and the group is working now on updating the work plan. We currently have 3 million. And that's mostly for the ongoing activities, like, for example, for our technical support team, some of the funding and so on. So most of those new activities that we put in the work plan are currently unfunded, and the gap is about 1.8 million, for which we are planning to fundraise. And then we also put rough budget needed for 2023, which is obviously not yet finalized, but it should be probably around the same figures that we need for 2022. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all the donors which we currently have and who funds our activities. Specifically, most of it goes to the technical support team, so thank you very much for this. And with this, I will summarize the key asks based on everything what I presented. First of all, Q1, we will send you a request to review your status in the GNC, partner versus observer, and also the contacts. We will send you also an asking for nomination to be a SAG member. To remind, we need 2 cluster coordinators and 1 NGO. Please do volunteer as a focal point or a member of work streams on 5 cross-cutting teams that we just discussed. Maybe even on the climate change, let's see. And joining the financing working group, we will send you the TOR for that, and also any other working group. I want to remind you that the working groups that we have, it's not that we formed them and that they are closed now. You can always join any working group, global thematic working group, if you feel that this is something you would like to contribute to, and you are always very welcome to do so. And with this, I think, thank you very much for all your attention, and we can go to the questions. I saw some of them I tried to already answer, but I saw there were some questions from Hassan. So I was referring to the slide on decision making where wasting global thematic work. Oh, and advocacy will have the delegated authority to decide of the collective. This was just example, Hassan. I didn't list everybody, but the point here is that where we have a global thematic working group or SAG or any entity, that will be the decision-making entity. So for the NIS, yes, everything related to NIS will be decided in the NIS working group. That was just example. Now, on the SAG membership, is it possible to allocate a slot for local NGO partners separate from the 3 NGO partners? this is something that we discussed with the strategic advisory group, how best to do it. And we did not come to a reasonable conclusion. So the reasonable conclusion now is that we are going to do this partnership review, including local NGOs, private sector, and so on. And one of the key asks for this partnership review would be for us to recommendation on the membership of the GNC at the global level. So that based on that review, we hope that there will be recommendation of how best to engage with all of those authorities, with all of those entities. So if they recommend us to, I don't know, have 2 more local NGOs, then we probably will do it. Or maybe they will recommend us something else. So and that's why I said that will be one of our priorities for the next year, because we want to sort it out as soon as possible. And with our new updated membership as a GNC, then we can better engage in all other initiatives. Having said this, I want again to emphasize that if any entity such as Global Thematic Working Group or Working Group need engagement with local NGO or with anybody, it doesn't mean that this entity has to be a part of the GNC. You can go directly and engage them as experts or as anybody else. So please don't be constrained in your work by the GNC membership. I think we answered all the questions. Unless I am wrong. Could the NGO refer to your technical staff for support? Absolutely. Andy, do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I didn't hear you.
Could the NGO refer to your technical staff for support?
Sorry.
The question is written.
Yeah, could the NGOs refer to your technical staff for support? I'm not clear exactly on the question, but yes, I mean, any request for support, whether it's a question or whether you need in-depth support, any organization is welcome to put in a request on the dashboard. And we are happy to help you, whether it's just some quick support or in-depth support. We will be able to work with you on whatever your needs are. So please do go to the website and click the request support button.
And yes, Yara just shared a link on the website. So for any request, for any support, please do use this form and it will go to the right person. And for now, I think I answered all the questions. Let me know if I missed something, and do raise your hands if you have any other questions. So everything looks crystal clear, like always. So then, if there are no other questions or comments, thank you, Yara. Oh, Kate, please go ahead.
Can I speak?
Yes, yes.
I know this isn't really the topic of this webinar, but are there changes as well happening in the structure at the country level that mirror or would affect or line up with the global GNC restructuring that are worth mentioning here? I
can come in if you want. It's Stefano.
Yes, please.
So yes, we are promoting a much greater inclusion of national and subnational local authorities, but also NGOs in the structure. So ensure that there is, there is greater opportunities for NGOs to propose their staff as a deputy cluster coordinator at the national level, subnational cluster coordinator or co-coordinator, and then to take up more consistently roles in terms of chairing of the cluster meetings or working groups or of the national level SAG. So it's we have shared already some guidance with our country office colleagues, but we want to make sure that this is really acted upon more strongly, and that this that there are alternative ways of supporting these partners, especially smaller local NGOs or smaller local authorities, which will find it, may find that the financial side of things may be a barrier to their contribution to coordination. So we are exploring different ways on how to do that, and we already shared some initial guidance, but this is something that we want to put more effort in the coming months. Over.
Thank you, Stefano. Kate, I hope that answered your question. If not, feel free to reach to us bilaterally. I didn't see any new hands or any new comments. So with this, thank you for your participation, and we will be sending you, as I mentioned, several emails with several requests for nomination and for information in the coming weeks. Stefano, would you like to say the final words?
No, again, thank you very much for your participation in this call. I think I feel really optimistic, and in the way things are developing, we are the way we are shaping the strategy, which reflects also the way we've been working in the last couple of years, is really I think responding to the changing needs in the best way possible, and this is also gaining even greater endorsement and commitment by donors and by UNICEF as cluster lead agency for much greater strengthening of our capacity, and that is going to help us do a better job and address some long-standing issues that we have encountered, and ensure that there is a much more coherent and consistent response, and to coordination prior to, during, and after a crisis. So better link with the humanitarian development nexus, much greater capacity and quality of the staff that we deploy externally, and much greater engagement and support of national and subnational actors. So I think we are. I look forward to the new strategy period with much positive expectations, and and I think that everyone is showing very strong commitment. So thank you very much, and please, if you have any remaining questions, and that you think about later on, please do contact us, and we'll do our best to answer it, and find better ways to work together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone, and happy holidays in case we are not seeing you. And let's start the implementation of our strategy soon.